Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Matt Leaf, and I will be your moderator for tonight's session on mental preparation. Looking forward to what should be a very informative webinar tonight that will hopefully provide you with some additional tools to add to your toolbox to allow you to have a successful season and mentally focus throughout the season. Thus far, we spent a lot of time with these webinars. We've gone over rules. We've gone over points of emphasis. We've done some positioning things. We've done some procedural, mechanics and those types of things. So tonight, what we really want to focus on is a mental focus and a mental preparation. And again, share some of the tools that we might have with you. Our panelists tonight, we're very pleased to be joined by, first of all, Mr. David Lassonde, who is currently USA Hockey's national goaltending coach, working with the NTDP teams in Plymouth, Michigan, as well as our under-20 national team and our senior men's when they get around and so forth. Dave brings 32 years of NCAA Division I coaching experience with us, including several trips, 5 trips, I think, to the Frozen Four, 20 NCAA appearances at 5 different universities where he's either been an assistant coach or an associate head coach at. So we welcome Dave, and he also brought some officiating background in his early days when he was much younger. So he does have a little bit of an understanding with that as well. You also see Mr. Jake Rekucki, who's a graduate of our junior officiating development program. Jake is currently working in ECHL and is an IHF licensed official. He's working his way up through the ranks, and very happy to have him join us tonight. And then finally, Scott Zelkin, who is our manager of the junior officiating development program, will be joining us shortly. He's having a few technical issues that he's working through, but we'll certainly welcome him when he comes on board, and we'll be able to provide some tremendous insight as well. Again, welcome everyone to the webinar. Just a reminder, if you do have a question throughout this particular session, you can use the Q&A function that's down at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to track those as we go along, and some of the better questions we'll do what we can to see if we can't get them answered tonight. Just like we've done with all the other webinars and Zoomcasts thus far, we want to start out with a few poll questions to get a little bit of a feel for the audience and what we're working with here tonight. So I'm going to launch a polling. There are 4 questions that we're asking you to take a few minutes here, read thoroughly, and give us your best response for those 4 questions. Once you get through those 4, you'll end at the bottom. You'll see a submit answers. We'll start seeing the results, and then we'll share the results real quick and get going with our program tonight. So let's take a minute or two to see what we can do with the poll questions. And we are going to end the polling here real quick, and we'll share the results. So the first question, true or false? Cognitive training reflects a hypothesis that cognitive abilities can be maintained or improved by exercising the brain, analogous to the way physical fitness is improved by exercising the body. We obviously have a very intelligent group with us tonight. They say 100% that the brain can be trained and can be exercised and help its functionality. The following statement best reflects my knowledge of the hockey intelligence. Looks like we have 3 of you, or 13%, that have used the intelligence, and congratulations, and thank you for that. There's another 13% that know someone who has, whether it be a player or an official, but maybe haven't used it themselves. 38% know that it exists and understand that it's there to train hockey sense, and another 38% have never heard of the hockey intelligence. So hopefully we will be changing that tonight for you. Number 3, true or false? Coaches and players will generally agree that it's better to miss a non-aggressive penalty call than it is to make a phantom or a cheap call. 58% say true, kind of sort of split. 42% say false. And question number 4, the following statement best reflects my experience with burnout as an official, coach, or player. 4% or 17% say that there seems to be a point every season where burnout is present and it gets a little bit harder to go to the rink. 13% say that you have experienced burnout, but it's not necessarily an every season occurrence, but it has occurred a couple of times throughout your career. 54% love the game and have never experienced burnout, but they recognize that there are also times where they've not necessarily been mentally focused for the game. 8% have never experienced burnout and feel that they've been mentally focused throughout the entire time. And we have a couple that are not an official player or a coach. So once again, we very much appreciate the feedback there, and look forward to hopefully answering some of those questions for you and giving you some information and some tools to put in your toolbox to make you a little bit better official. And for those who are just a hockey enthusiast, give them some information as well. Before we get started, I'd like to real quickly welcome Scott Zelkin, again, as our 4th panelist tonight, manager of the Junior Officiating Development Program. And Scott, we're glad that you got through your little technical issues there, and welcome aboard.
Thanks, Matt. It's good to be with all of you tonight. As the last 10 minutes just showed, I'm much better off as the host of these versus the panelist, because it was challenging to get in, but I'm glad to be here and excited to talk for the next hour.
We're happy to have you here as well, Scott. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and go through a quick presentation to give you a little bit of a better idea of where we're going and some of the tools that we have here. Once again, this particular session is going to be on mental preparation and maintaining some mental focus. Okay, so as officials, what are we trying to accomplish? And I think everyone can recognize that our primary goals, okay, are to make the game safe and fair for all the participants. We want to make accurate calls, okay, to according to the spirit and the intent of the rules, okay, and at that same time allow the players to dictate the flow of the game with only making the correct calls. And I think as you're going to learn here, one of the things we want to talk about, or we will talk about tonight, is that phantom call and where it fits into the game and how it affects the officiating side of things. And I think the first question we're going to try to answer is there a tool that's out there that can help us accomplish those 3 goals? And through a partnership with USA Hockey and Applied Cognitive Engineering, which is a company from Israel, they developed the Hockey Intelligem. And the primary purpose was to create a tool to improve decision-making on the ice. It was originally designed for players, and they've also done similar type projects with basketball. Where it really started was with the training fighter pilots and doing brain training and cognitive training for both the Israeli and the United States Air Forces, which is certainly some of the best in the world. And they've expanded into the sports world a little bit with basketball, hockey, and I think they're also getting involved with soccer a little bit. And what we're trying to accomplish here, okay, is the Hockey Intelligem is going to address a large variety of different brain skills that are found to be strongly related to on-ice performance. This includes anticipation, divided attention, long-term focus and concentration, execution of a game plan, pattern recognition, coping with time constraints, ability to find open ice, awareness, positioning, working memory, and overall team play. So as they developed this, worked with USA Hockey to develop this particular application, those were the main areas where they felt strongly they could put together a program that is going to assist in the participants' ability in those 10 areas. It was designed and tested together with USA Hockey and ACE for players all the way from 10 years old to the pros. It adjusts automatically, continually to each individual's strengths and weaknesses and was created in a game-like atmosphere, keeping it engaging and fun for the players. It is adopted so far since there's been over 50,000 players, teams, associations, and hockey programs, including the NTDP that has jumped on board and utilizes the Hockey Intelligence. And it's been shown to show significant on-ice results and was selected as the grand prize recipient in the Brain Fitness Innovation Awards just a few years ago. So it's been highly recognized throughout the world as being the leading application out there for brain training for athletes, and in our case specifically ice hockey athletes. So where we go from there? Once the Intelligence was designed, I'm going to ask Scott, or bring Scott in here real quickly, to explain a little bit in terms of how a research project was set up with the officials that are involved in our junior officiating development program. Where did the idea come from? Who all was involved, and what parameters were in place? And if Scott can share a little bit about the history of that research project, we'll then share some of the data that was collected.
Thanks, Matt. You know, essentially the genesis of this program, or the genesis of the idea was, you know, when we talk about what the junior officiating development program is, we're trying to train the best officials, the top officials we have in the country at the amateur level, officials working in the USHL, officials trying to advance to the highest levels of hockey, including the National Hockey League. And ultimately, when we're some of the things we're worried about when we're developing officials are, you know, what can they do to be successful and almost slow the game down? Because no different than an athlete, I'm sure Coach Lassonde would agree with this. When the game slows down for an official, or the game slows down for an athlete, they're going to make better decisions. And ultimately, we want our officials making the best decisions they possibly can in a high stress, challenging environment. And certainly it's not as high stress or challenging as being a fighter pilot, but at the same token, it's a challenging environment with the speed of the game and everything else. And something we're constantly talking to our officials about is slowing the game down. And so what we did is, you know, we felt there was potentially a tool to help do this, help make good calls, help get in and out of the game with less mistakes. And mistakes are going to happen, but we want to limit them. And so what did we do? Well, what we did was, you know, we took a group of officials. We took two groups of officials. We took 40 officials and divided them into two groups. And Jake Rekucki here was one of those officials involved. And we divided him into a group of 20 that used the Hockey Intelligence for 3 months, and a group of 20 that didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, we didn't even tell them they were in a quote unquote control group. And, you know, we asked our officials to use the Intelligence a couple times a week for 3 months. And then what we did was we had some of our officiating coaches in a blind study. We just told them to look at our officials on the ice, watch the games that they're working, and track good penalties, good stoppages of play. How did we feel their awareness was? How did we feel their anticipation was? And we didn't tell our officiating coaches, or what is, you know, used to be called our supervisors, we didn't tell them who was in the Intelligence group, who wasn't in the Intelligence group. We also didn't tell them whether the game happened in October of that season or in February of that season, after there'd been 5 months or 4 months of hockey and 3 months of Intelligence work. And so then we picked up the data and we looked at, you know, how many times did an official stop a play inappropriately? How many times were officials getting in the way? Were they not anticipating well? And then also for the referees and also the linesmen, when they were making decisions, were their decisions that they were making correct? Were they calling good penalties, or were they calling phantom penalties? And so we tracked all of those things. And honestly, at the end of at the end of the study, when we got done at the end of the year, the results were quite astounding. So that's the overarching background on what we did using the IntelliGym map.
Thanks, Scott. And before we get to the results part, I want to bring Jake in here and be honest with us. Your boss at that time, you're in the program, and your boss, Scott Zelkin, gets you and several other officials on the phone and on a call and tells you that you're basically going to be involved in a research project that may or may not make you a better official. Go through that research project a little bit and what you're going to be doing, which some perceive to be a video game, but we know it's more than that. But you get that phone call and you're now involved in this. What were your first thoughts when you got that, and what exactly was it like to do the program? Because I do understand you were in the experiment group that did the IntelliGym.
Yeah, so basically, actually, before I even knew, before Scott went into it, I read about it in the Stripes newsletter like a month before. So I'd actually already started doing it. Obviously, they said about the fighter pilots, so I was curious about it right away. I always felt like I was having trouble like remembering numbers and for goals and assists and penalties and stuff like that. So I was looking for something like a game on my phone or something to play for like memory. And IntelliGym came along. So when I first started, obviously I was a little skeptical. Like if you've ever seen what the game looks like, I don't know if you have like a screenshot of it, but it basically looks like the old Atari game, like Pong. And so like you try to score into one side and the other, and every level gets harder and harder. Well, and there's like a new wrinkle, like you got to press space twice before you pass it or something. But I really did. It's really like fun to play actually. Like when I lived in the apartment, I pretty much played video games all the time anyway. So I figured I might as well play a video game that would help me on the ice.
Okay, thanks, Jake. So basically, just want to real quickly go into kind of sort of what we're looking for. I'm going to go back there because I jumped the gun. Okay, so just a second here. Okay, so basically there's 4 types of decisions, and what the process of this research was built on is that there's 4 types of decisions. There's either a violation or no violation, which results in either a whistle or no whistle. So you'll see on the left-hand side there, when you break down the official's call, they either stop play, and it was a good call because there was a violation and stopped the game properly in the white, or there was no violation and the official did not stop the game and rightly allowed it to continue, which is also in the right. And then you see in the red, which is essentially the incorrect calls, the officials missed a violation, they did not stop play, or the official stopped play and there was no justified reason to stop the play. So when you break it down on the right side, and the statistical terminology is you have a hit and a miss, okay, on the violation side. So it was either, yep, we hit it, we got the correct call, or we missed it and there was no whistle. Or on the no violation side, there was a false alarm, okay, meaning that we stopped play when we didn't need to and there was no justification for it, or there was a correct rejection and reaction to that. So that, in a nutshell, was the basis of what the research was looking at. We then, part of what the coaches did when they're analyzing the video is they developed and looked at 4 main areas: anticipation, overall judgment, communication, and also positioning, and rated the officials in those areas along with skating. Skating was used as a control group because for all practical purposes, the IntelliGym is not necessarily meant to improve the skating, but you'll notice in the control group, both the intelligent group and the control group under skating, they both improved at about the same rate as the season went along. Where you see the biggest improvement with the intelligent group was on the anticipation side before they started using Intelligent versus after. Same thing where a bigger positive curve, so to speak, was formed on the judgment side. Communication was enhanced with the intelligent group, and also a slight improvement in positioning, which is probably linked back to the anticipation side of things. So with that being said, I want to bring Dave in here with a quick question. And before we get to one of the final slides here, for years, the officiating program, we've always emphasized for officials to avoid the phantom calls, and that it was better to miss a marginal hook or a trip than it was to make up a call that simply is not a penalty. What's your perspective, or what's the general perspective from a coach on that philosophy, and are we on the right track with that, or are we way off base?
I would agree with that. I think one of the things that we do as coaches is we continually encourage our players to play the game the right way. And as coaches, we expect the referees to officiate the game the right way. And we understand that mistakes are going to be made. There is no such thing as a perfect game, whether you're on the officiating side of things or on the players' side of the things, or even the coaching side of things. And one of the things that happens when you do make a mistake is sometimes you feel like you need to affect the game. We encourage our players when they do make a mistake. We want to know how you're going to affect the game after that mistake is made, and you're going to have second, third efforts. And it's the same thing with an official. He understands or she understands that I've made a mistake. The thing is that at that point, it's in how you affect the game. It can be the positive or it could be negative. It takes a lot of courage to own up to mistakes. But I think one of the things in officiating is if you try to affect the game after you make a mistake, I think it tends to compound the problem more than anything else, because you either want to move the marbles around a little bit, or you realize you've made maybe not a great call, so you want to kind of even things up, those types of things. And as coaches, I think most of us would agree that, own up to the mistake, admit you did it, and try not to make up for a mistake by making another mistake. So I think that through all the good work that the people in the officiating education program have done over the years, I think that that's probably been impressed upon them as it relates to that. And, I would say that it's definitely in a much better position. I think in the past, when you look at a team that's on a 5-on-3, in the past, it's amazing how on that 5-on-3, there's a call that's made to try and make it a 4-on-3, that type of thing. So I think a lot of good things are happening in those areas.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So what was the end results, or what were the main findings of the research? First and foremost, the intelligent group reduced their false alarms, so the unjustified game stoppages, by 92%, which is certainly a fairly significant number. In total, the intelligent group reduced unjustified game stoppages by 2.55 times per game on average. And it's important to note that all the officials that are in the program improved as the season went along. The control group also improved, dropping their false alarms and their cheap calls or the phantom calls by 57%, which is 0.8 less unjustified stoppages per game on average. So all in all, pretty positive in terms of results and in terms of what we're trying to accomplish as officials, which is to avoid those false alarms, minimize the opportunity or minimize the situations where we stop play unnecessarily, or we make a phantom call and end up stopping play that wasn't justified. So Jake, again, as the participants, I guess the next best question is, at what point through this process did you recognize that there may be something to this and that there was a difference in your games? And what areas did you feel that you maybe improved the most?
Yeah, so I would say it probably took about a month of doing it consistently to feel any difference. Like Scott was saying at the beginning here, he said that he wanted the game to appear slower, and I really felt that it did do that. I felt like I was able to process information faster. So even though the game wasn't slower, obviously, I was able to process it in my mind much faster, which made it seem slower. It was almost like I was able to predict play better too. So I felt like I was a few plays ahead, which leads into anticipation. So I could position myself better to be somewhere to see something happen. Like, for example, if there was going to be a close play at the net before Intelligent, I was waiting until the shot was already taken to go to the net. When after I did it, I could see 2 plays ahead, and I would already be at the net ready for the scramble and not blow the whistle if it was loose or what have you. So I just felt like it made me overall anticipate better and be able to process the game faster as well.
And have you been able to maintain that level?
I feel like it kind of changed the way I look at the game. So now I process the game probably about the same speed because I've been doing it so long now. But I feel like the way I think about the anticipation is different. Like I try to look for plays, like what players would do, so I can anticipate better. I'm sure my false alarms or whatever has dropped off some since I haven't used it because I probably haven't used it in over 2 years now. But yeah, I do feel like it's kind of changed the way I think and anticipate.
Okay, great. And Scott, from the management side of things, the results of the project, I mean, what did you expect going in and were you surprised with the results?
You know what, I wasn't sure what to expect. And, you know, I think the one thing, and it really doesn't matter what level an official's working. If it's a grassroots official working scored Pee-wee Bantam games, as they work throughout the season, assuming they don't get burned out, they should improve. The more reps you get, the better you're going to be. The thing that was most striking to me, and so we saw that with our control group, is they were trending up, and that was because they were working on a regular basis. The thing that surprised me was the false alarms, the cheap penalties, dropping by 92%. You know, one thing we really hammer home with our officials is don't guess. We don't want you guessing. If you're not sure, don't call something. And that goes back to what Coach Lassonde was talking about in terms of not wanting that, not affecting the game by making a mistake, by shutting the play down when you shouldn't, with a penalty or something. And that was an amazing number to me in terms of seeing how much better they got. And when you think about it, if their anticipation was better, which it was because of the intelligence, if their positioning was better because of the things Jake was talking about in their ability to read the play, that's what's going to slow the game down. That's what's going to allow them not to have to guess. And so that was really the striking thing to me. And you know, then when we looked at kind of our top performing officials in that season, the majority of them, and Jake was certainly one of them, the officials that ended up in the finals at the AHL level, they were all officials that were working in this group. And, you know, once again, we're talking at a high level. I firmly believe if you're that grassroots official, it's still going to do the same thing for you because you're not going to guess. And the Pee-wee coach doesn't want you guessing any more than Coach Lassonde does at the IIHF NCAA level. And so there's going to be benefit everywhere. So those were the things that were the most striking to me.
And what was the feedback you got from the officials and the officiating coaches that were involved?
The officiating coaches, after a while, they started playing a game with me where they would say, hey, I just watched this game and, you know, Jake was really solid. He looked really good. Or one of our other officials. Was this game later in the year, and was Jake in that group or that official in the group? So they like that. And then the officials in the program, I think the most common feedback I got from them was, I'm anticipating the game better. I'm able to read the game better. And once again, the game's slowing down for me. So that was and when you fold all those things in, that then helps reduce the guessing and the stuff. So that was the universal, not universal, but that was the major takeaway I got from the officials that were doing it.
Okay, then finishing off with Coach Lassonde, I guess my question to you is as a coach, do you see this as being significant improvement, and are you a believer that the hockey intelligence is something that would benefit the officials that work your games?
I'm a firm believer that anything that can help the officials would benefit the game. And I think this is a wonderful way of doing it. I kind of look at, some of the categories that you talked about. Like, I know, with my goaltending background, anticipation, awareness, communication, positioning, they're all keys to success for the goalies that we work with and play the position. And those are all in this hockey intelligence. Even though I've never used it before, I know people that have used it, goalies that have used it, players that have used it, and they've improved in all those areas. And it doesn't surprise me that the officials have found it very, very beneficial as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of sort of summarize a little bit here too, you were involved with that 2013 under 20 team that won the gold medal in Ufa, Russia. And those kids are all coming from pretty much the NTDP, and they would have been involved with the Intelligence because that is part of their program there. Just some of the names that was on that group or on that team, and it was a pretty impressive group. But Shane Gastabier, Seth Jones, Jacob Truba, Johnny Goudreau, JT Miller, Alex Galyanchuk. Okay, were just some of the forwards. And of course, as you know, because you were working with him, John Gibson went on a tremendous run at that particular tournament and was voted the best goalkeeper of the tournament and led us to a gold medal. So I think that based on that list of players alone, not to mention some of the others that have come through our programs, there's probably some pretty good merit there that there's got to be something to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you know what? Some of the characteristics of their play that allowed us to have success in that event, we were able to stay in the moment. We were able to avoid the noise. We had good body language. There weren't too many highs. There weren't too many lows. We had a next play mentality. Our communication was unbelievable. When I think about all those things, when I think like having refereed, as you mentioned earlier, prior to getting in coaching full time, when I think about the good officials at every level, those characteristics that I just mentioned that seem to be common with all those players that were on our 2013 team, those are characteristics of the good officials. How do they handle adversity? And one of the ways they handle adversity is they fall back on their habits, because habits are what protect you in times of adversity. As officials, you have adversity. As players, we have adversity. As coaches, we have adversity. So, through preparation and the formation of good habits, when we get in those high pressure situations, those habits are the ones that help us get through those situations. And the officials that have good habits as it relates to all those types of things, they're the ones that work in, the major events associated with hockey.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for that insight, Dave. And I think just to wrap things up on the intelligence side of things, you can find out more information on the usahockey.com website. There is a page that's dedicated to the intelligence, and there's a ton of information there on how to get going and stuff like that. But the bottom line is we feel pretty good about it within the officiating program, and we're very happy to be able to work with them in developing that research project. I know that they've taken that to some other pretty significant federations on the officiating side as well, and there seems to be quite a bit of benefit along those lines. So want to transition now into talking about mental focus and the burnout angle and how do we battle some of those things, and is there some other tools that we can make sure that we have in our toolbox other than Intelligim that will help us along that line as well. I'm going to start with Jake on this one, and the reality is, look, you've been grinding it out in the junior and the minor pro levels for a few years now. You've logged a lot of miles, a lot of time on the road, and it's not always been ideal situations with weather, sickness, and everything else that you've had to battle to go out and perform 3 or 4, maybe even sometime 5 nights a week. What have you done to battle through some of that potential burnout? Is it something that you have experienced? And if you have, what have you done to battle through that and grind to get yourself mentally right for each game that you go out and work?
Yeah, so I definitely have felt burnout. Usually happens about February every year, just after the holidays, too far from the start, too far from the end. Just feels like, the weather's not great. It's just really becomes a grind. So I have a couple things. My first thing, I'm a big workout guy. So one thing I do to keep myself grounded is I make sure I get a workout in every day during the season. It's just a way to clear my mind and kind of hit the reset button. Obviously, if I'm on the road or something, I always try to do something in the hotel if I'm home. Try to make it to my gym, see my trainer, see my friends, just kind of keep sharp and hit the reset button. The other thing I do, especially if I've had a long or tough weekend, I try to get away from hockey for a while. I do this in the summer too, just to kind of hit the reset button, like I said before. If I can just get away from hockey for a couple days, if I have a couple days off, if I can just kind of not think about it, for me, that really helps me be able to be ready for the next weekend. But if I can't get away, if I have a lot of games strung together, I try to get my workouts in, and then I'll call some friends that are officials or just friends to just talk about whatever. Kind of helps me put things into perspective and realize how fortunate I am to be doing what I'm doing, even though it might not be the best right now. Especially today in the COVID times, I wish it was February. I wish I was grinding through the winter months, not having anything to work other than some grassroots stuff and some other stuff I'm working. So I think even when I go back after this COVID stuff, I think I'll look at it differently and appreciate it more.
Have you ever had that situation or that game where you stepped out on the ice and 10 minutes into the first period, you're going to yourself, hey, I'm not here right now. I'm not mentally focused. I'm not sharp. When that's happened, what have you done to adjust? What have you done to wake yourself up and get yourself to the point where you can do your job?
Yeah, I can think of one instance. I remember it exactly. It was, I was working the USHL that year for Scott. I was working a Sunday in Omaha, and Sunday games either go one of two ways. They're either crazy or nothing happens. I think I was hoping for the nothing happens version, and it wasn't that game. I wasn't ready. I got a really bad supervision that game, and it really wasn't what I expect of myself. So basically what I try to do if I'm in the game and I feel that way, the first thing I have to do is recognize that I feel that way. Like if I know I don't have it, then I need to work harder to make sure that I get myself into it. I skate harder, try to get my brain into it. Another thing that I do during games is I try to chop up the games into smaller segments. So for me, I go media timeout to media timeout. But for someone grassroots, or you could just chop it up, whistle to whistle, or, time on the clock. But things I'll tell myself, like during those media timeouts, is, all right, I need to hold this standard for the next 6 minutes. Or I'm getting to the end of the game here. I need to buckle down the next 6 minutes and make sure that every penalty is worth 2 minutes. no cheap calls. Or I'll tell myself, you kind of look at the game and say that the temp is rising and that if something happens, I need to be ready to catch it. In terms of like longer term preparation, I was a goalie growing up in high school as well. So I'm kind of weird like that, but I really am big on my routine. I do the same routine before every game. It might take you a while to find that routine. It did for me. But once I found it, what's something that makes me feel mentally and physically ready, I do it before every game to make sure I'm ready to go.
Okay, coach, and look, a lot of people would suggest that goalkeepers and referees are kind of sort of alike. They're both oftentimes lonely, in terms of they don't have a whole lot of support out there, and they can be used as a scapegoat when things don't necessarily go well. You've worked with some of the top goalies, top American goalies over your career. We mentioned John Gibson in 2013. I think it was pretty clear that he was in the zone throughout that particular tournament. How do you assist in their mental preparation? And what do you do from a coaching standpoint to get that goalkeeper in that zone?
I think when you work at in an event like that, you're not around those kids every day because you come in for the tournament, you coach the tournament, then you leave. So I think the first thing that's real important is communication. You have to figure out what makes them tick. You ask them, what is it? You know your game better than I know your game. And what is it that I can do to help you get your game to where we need your game to be in order for our group to have success? And so it starts with that. And then from there, you can kind of add your own little touch to how you work with those kids. For me, a big thing that I try to encourage kids to do when I work at these high-level IIHF events is I talk to them about the importance of mastering the moment, the importance of making sure that you are where your feet are, and that whether it's a video session, whether it's a workout session, whether it's a practice session, that's where your focus is, that's where your mind is. You're not thinking anything else about anything else but trying to master that particular event that you're doing. And I think sometimes in life, whether it's officiating, whether it's coaching, whether it's playing, whether it's the business world, one of the things that causes us to fail is we're not focused on the task at hand. We're thinking about something else that we might need to do when we leave work. We're thinking about some phone call that we need to be making or some phone call that we're going to get. And I love the point that, is it Jeff that made about recognition? It's important to recognize it, but it's even more important to act on it. So during the course of the game, if you recognize as a goalie that you're not necessarily at your best, recognize it and then figure out how you're going to improve it, much like you talked about from an officiating standpoint. And like I said before, I find that there are a lot of similarities between officiating and playing goal in terms of the focus, the awareness, the communication, the anticipation, all those types of things. But that's kind of been my approach when I've worked with the John Gibsons, the Kyle Kaisers, the Caden Primos, and some of the World Junior teams I've been on. It's just getting them to be in the moment, eliminate the noise, and focus.
Very good. Some excellent advice there. And Scott, what are some of the things that the JODP is doing to make things a little bit easier for the officials in the program? What resources are provided? And what are some of the things where you found you've had the most success?
Well, I think we tried to deliver really, and I've been taking notes here as both Dave and Jake have been talking. We try to deliver the same sort of messages in terms of falling back on your habits. If you build good habits, that's always a good place to go when you struggle. Eliminate the highs and lows, things like that. But what what we try to do is, we want to recognize that the officials in our program, and really it's no different than an official that's working a couple hundred games at the youth level. It's a grind, and it's going to be challenging at times. And not every game is a state tournament. Not every game is the Thanksgiving Day championship game or the Stanley Cup final or whatever it is. There are going to be games where you've got to be good when there's no reason for you to be focused. And so we try to make sure the officials are in as good a place as possible dealing with the stress. We have one of our management teams, one of our coaches is a guy that doesn't know anything about ice hockey. He's a life coach. He's a voice for the officials to talk to when they're dealing with challenges off the ice. He's a little bit of a safety net for them to go. Sometimes our officials, they want to talk to their friends. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they need a voice just to talk to deal with the stresses. You talked about the things we ask of Jake or we ask of our officials, and the pressure that they put on themselves. And, most officials are their harshest critics. And so it's probably no different than a player or a goalie. When you step off the ice as an official, whether you did well or not. You don't need anybody else to tell you. And if you string a couple of those tough games in a row together, the pressure builds. And we honestly, one of the best things we do is we have a gentleman that they can talk to help them with those challenges, to help them with the challenges they may be getting from home. And what that is all about is putting them in a good place mentally. It's so that when, going back to what Coach Lassonde said, when you step on the ice, you can be dialed in. You don't have to worry about those other stresses. You don't have to worry about, pressures at work. If you're a grassroots official, it's the same sort of thing in terms of making them mentally in a good place so they can focus on the task at hand, so that they can be where their feet are, and then go into all of the other stuff, the calling penalties, the anticipation, so that for 60 minutes of hockey, they're focused. And so our goal is to support our officials as best as we can, so that when they do have to go, they're in as good a place as they can be, because we want to believe they have good habits. We want to believe all of those things. So then really what they're working on is the space between their ears.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you do a lot of the video work too. You do a weekly highlights, video clips, and those types of things. And maybe Jake can weigh in on this too, but how do you feel that benefits the program, or at least the officials that are involved in the program mentally, as far as their preparation?
Well, I'll say this and I'll let Jake jump in. I mean, I think video can be a double-edged sword. It can be good, but sometimes you don't want to be the guy that gets shown on a tape that gets broadcast out to a few hundred officials making a mistake. And so we try to be cognizant that we don't want to mess with an official's confidence, that we don't want to pick on an official, but we want to use it as a positive, as a reinforcement of helping set standards so that those officials know what is expected of them. And I mean, that's our goal. I think if you wake up on a Tuesday morning and you see our highlights and you're in 2 of our videos of this is not what we want, you might take it a certain way, but ultimately we're trying to be positive to try to support them. But I think Jake can offer, being on the other end of those and seeing them, whether or not that's a success.
Don't want to be on the teaching clips. If you're on the highlights, it's a good thing. But for me, the biggest thing was, especially when I first started work at the USHL, was to be able to see the standard. Because obviously, if you're working a 3-man at the time, it's hard to know where the line is in different leagues and different age levels. So that was big for me to be able to see what penalties are good penalties, what management is expecting. So, yeah.
I think, to touch on that is that someone has to be on the clips. And it's important from a mental standpoint that you have a growth mindset. And we talk to our players, and all my years of coaching at the college level, it's, we explain to them that sometimes you're going to be on it for good reasons. Sometimes you're going to be on it because we need to get better. And the whole key is to make sure you have a growth mindset with respect to those types of things, because video is valuable.
Excellent point. Excellent point. A final question for you guys, and this is kind of, you can all weigh in on this real briefly. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I think it's important for us to address the issue of the pandemic and how that's going to affect our rules throughout the course of this season. Obviously, we all want hockey back. We want to create a safe environment for the players, the coaches, the officials, our families, and everyone else that we deal with. But that's going to change our role. I think, Jake, from the on-ice side of things, what are you thinking, or what are you changing, and how do you feel things are going to go, knowing that you have some responsibility on the COVID side of things to keep everyone safe as well?
Yeah, so for me, in terms of ECHL and American League and stuff like that, I'm just trying not to worry about what I can't control. I've always been like the type of guy who tries to not worry about things they can't control. So I'm just trying to stay on the ice a couple times a week. At first, I was a little hesitant to want to work wearing a mask and using the electronic whistle, because here in Michigan that's mandated. But I figured I can either just do it, stay on the ice, stay active, stay a part of the game, or I can be upset and not do it. And I decided to do it, and I worked a couple games last weekend and enjoyed it. I didn't even know the last time I worked a youth game, and had a lot of fun doing it. So.
Gabe, Coach, Scotty, any thoughts on that?
Coach, you want to go first, or you want me to go?
You can go.
All right. I think, you know what, I think there's got to be a heightened level of personal responsibility this year, as much as anything. You know, the simple thing of, and I think, once again, whether you're an official that's working might and sport games, or you're an official like Jake working the American Hockey League, every single one of us has gone to the rink when we didn't feel good. And we didn't want to, and most times, you know what, we get through it. This year, we're going to ask our officials that if you're not feeling well, you have to be honest with us, and you can't go to work. And, you know, for us in the JODP, we're going to understand that. And the leagues understand that, and the coaches and GMs understand that. And there might be a night where there's only 2 officials on the ice versus 3. And my expectation is that schedulers around the country are going to be accepting of that as well. So, and then the other thing is, we expect officials, and once again, this is everybody, we've got to be personally responsible. And I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but we can't be in large crowds. If we want to do what we love, which is officiating, we've got to be smart. And certainly, you know, when you're in the rink, be smart. You know, keep that hand sanitizer in your bag. Take it out to the penalty box and use it in between periods or at stoppages of play, or if you've been handling a bunch of players. If they want you to wear a mask, wear it correctly. You know, so it's a lot of taking personal responsibility and ownership for your own actions. And that's the biggest challenge. We all want to be on the ice. We all want to be playing hockey. And the only way we're going to get through this year is if more people are responsible than are not. And so that's the message we're trying to deliver.
And I agree with that. We just came back from a 3-day, we went to Minnesota with our U18 team, played 3 games in 4 nights, and we had a meeting with our group prior to leaving about the expectations for our group when we were on the road. And it wasn't just expectations for the players, it was expectations for the coaches as well. There was minimal to no contact between our players and their parents in the area that we're in. And so, you know, we were asked to go do some things with some coaching staffs in the area, and we just didn't feel, we wanted to practice what we preached at the end of the day. So and that's the individual responsibility that Scott is talking about, that we all have to take in order, because at the end of the day, we're part of a team, we're part of a group, and the actions of one person might ultimately affect the fortunes of the entire group. And I would never want to be the one because I was irresponsible to prevent our kids from being able to experience something that was taken away from them in March. And I would think that we all feel that way.
No, excellent. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing that. And as we approach the end of the hour here, want to do one more screen share, let you know and see what the upcoming schedule looks like. Tonight was the mental preparation. Next week, we're getting back into the nuts and bolts with icings and offsides. The following Tuesday, the 20th, we're going to get into some volunteer opportunities and have some of our key officiating program leadership involved with that on the volunteer side and where you might be able to fit in and contribute to the program off the ice. And then on Tuesday, October 27th, we're going to dig into NCAA officiating and some of the opportunities and what the expectations are there and where they might fit in with some of the supervisors that are working at the NCAA Division I and Division III levels. Remember to please follow us on the social media channels. This presentation or this Zoomcast will be up on our YouTube channel later on this week, also through Twitter and Instagram and some of the other things. BJ does an excellent job of keeping everything up to date there. We'll also be sending out as a reminder a survey for this particular session for anyone who was involved, and we appreciate your continued dedication and continued involvement on this. And most importantly, I want to thank you for your continued involvement and participation in these Zoomcasts. I know that we have a core group of regulars. It is very much appreciated, and hope that you're getting some information out of these sessions and are enjoying them as much as we are in terms of putting them on. Finally, thank the panelists, Jake, Coach Lassonde, Scotty Zelkin, for again giving up time from your busy schedules to be a part of this. Hopefully we were able to give you some ideas and some thoughts. I know we definitely gave you an idea in terms of an additional tool with the Hockey Intelligence that can be added to your toolbox. And at the same time, maybe gave you some ideas on some other things that you can do throughout the season to maximize that mental focus and avoid burnout and be the best official that you can be each and every time you step on the ice. So again, thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your continued involvement and dedication to USA Hockey. And hopefully everyone's back on the ice now in some sort of a safe capacity, and that you're able to stay that way if you're not on there yet, that you will get that opportunity down the road very soon, and know that USA Hockey's doing everything we can to create that safe environment, and appreciate your cooperation in doing that. So with that, good night. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and let's go out and have a great week of hockey. And for those that are officials, a great week of hockey officiating. Thank you very much.